Here are the top stories for today, December 10, 2021. More life-saving doses. The country gets over 3.5 million doses of Astrazeneca and Moderna jabs today, less than a week before the second round of the massive COVID-19 vaccination drive. Efforts paying off. The health department traces 5 more travelers from South Africa who entered the country days before the travel ban on countries that reported cases of the Omicron variant. Still a victory. Government officials welcomed the Supreme Court's decision upholding the constitutionality of the Anti-Terrorism Act, even as it struck down 2 provisions of the law. And celebrating culture and faith. The Philippines sends the exact replica of the Santo Niño de Cebu to Spain. Good day, I'm Marita Muahe. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Philippines has received over 3.5 million additional doses of COVID-19 vaccines on Friday in time for round 2 of the government's national vaccination drive. Local officials welcomed the arrival of 2.9 million doses of Moderna vaccines procured by the national government and the private sector. Also newly arrived were over 698,000 doses of Astrazeneca, similarly allocated for local government units and private entities. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Special Advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa said the arrival of the 2 brands is timely as preparations are ongoing for the next mass vaccination drive. Over 157 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine have arrived in the country so far, with the numbers reaching 200 million doses before year-end. The second round of the immunization program is scheduled for December 15 to 17. 5 of the travelers who arrived in the Philippines from South Africa amid the COVID-19 Omicron variant scare have already been traced. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said 2 of them are now under quarantine and waiting for their RT-PCR results. 1 tested negative and is in home quarantine, and 1 completed the 14-day quarantine and was declared clear. In a separate interview, DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire reported 1 other person being found. The travelers who arrived in the Philippines prior to the imposition of travel restrictions reportedly provided wrong, incomplete personal information in their health declaration forms. Duque earlier urged these travelers to cooperate with authorities and get tested for the Omicron variant. He also revealed plans to publicize their names should they not appear, but noted that there will be legal implications. The government is placing Portugal in its red list of countries at risk for COVID-19 starting December 12. Passengers who came from Portugal within 14 days and will arrive in the Philippines from December 12 to December 15 will have to follow stricter quarantine protocols. Starting December 15, passengers coming from or who have been to Portugal within the last 14 days prior to arrival in the Philippines are barred from entering the country, regardless of their vaccination status. Cabinet Secretary and Acting Presidential Spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the inclusion of Portugal in the red list was decided on by the Interagency Task Force. An official of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 lauded the efforts of the national government in the pandemic response against COVID-19. NTF-19 Sub-Task Force on Current Operations said Assistant Secretary Wilben Mayor said the drop in cases is a fruit of the government's labors. With this in mind, Mayor encouraged those who have yet to receive their vaccines to get inoculated. Local officials welcomed the arrival of 1.01 million doses of Pfizer vaccines procured by the national government at the Nino International Airport, Terminal 3 on Thursday night. Mayor said the latest shipment brings to about 151.4 million doses, the total vaccine doses delivered to the country since February. Meantime, NTF Chief Implementer and Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. sees a better Christmas ahead following the success of the first national vaccination days from November 29 to December 3. Galvez said he is confident the Philippines would achieve population protection before the year ends by realizing its target of fully vaccinating at least 54 million Filipinos. Expect more lenient conditions for those visiting or moving to Albay after the provincial government lifted the checkpoints for strict border control regulations. Executive Order Number 35 issued by Albay Governor Al Francis Bichara on Thursday states that local government units of destinations may impose more lax restrictions as those prescribed under higher alert levels. Albay is now under the lower alert level 2 community quarantine status. Based on Department of Health data, Albay has 654 active cases of COVID-19 as of December 5. Meanwhile, as of December 3, over 614,000 individuals or 62% of Albayanos are now inoculated with at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccines. Metro Manila has announced that it is moving ahead in efforts to vaccinate more Filipinos against COVID-19. This as more than 100% of its target eligible population has been vaccinated. More on this from William Theo.
More than 100% of the National Capital Region's target eligible population are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19, according to the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA. MMDA Chairperson Benjamin Abalos Jr. said Metro Manila has a 9.8 million eligible population for COVID-19 vaccination. Abalos cited that high vaccination turnout and the unified response strategies of the mayors among the factors as to why the COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila continue to go down. He also said mayors of the Metro Manila Council have agreed to augment the vaccination of its neighboring provinces by deploying healthcare workers. In Negros Occidental, some 2,362 personnel, or 99% of the Negros Occidental Police Provincial Office, have been vaccinated against COVID-19 as of the first week of December. Among those inoculated, 2,030 have received either 1 or 2 doses, while 332 received only the first dose. The NOC-PPO personnel have been administered Sinovac Coronavac, Astrazeneca, Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, and single-dose Janssen jabs. Meanwhile, nearly 902,000 individuals in Zamboanga City have received their COVID-19 vaccines. Data released by the City Health Office on Wednesday showed that over 567,000 or 81.6% of the target eligible population of 694,696 have received their first dose. Some 334,000 individuals or 48% meanwhile received their second dose. Mayor Maria Isabel Climaco Salazar said the city government is pursuing the vaccination rollout to achieve population protection against COVID-19. Salazar said they are targeting to fully vaccinate 50% of the target eligible population by December 15. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government urged the Commission on Elections to issue guidelines on the activities for candidates before the start of the campaign period in February next year. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año reacted to a caravan held by presidential aspirant former Senator Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte along Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City on Wednesday. Aside from causing heavy traffic, health protocols such as physical distancing were not observed. Año said the issue would have to be discussed by the Interagency Task Force to prevent similar super spreader events. Meantime, Año said what police and local government units can merely do is to implement minimum public health standards. Still to come, the Supreme Court's decision on the constitutionality of the anti-terror law draws praises from government officials. And they call for Justice De Palas vows to leave no stone unturned in pursuing the perpetrators of the killing of another journalist. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. The Supreme Court on Thursday said it upheld the validity of nearly all provisions of the Republic Act 11479 or the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2022. The High Court said aside from a portion of Section 4 and a portion of Section 25, all the other challenged provisions of RA 11479 are not unconstitutional. The SC declared unconstitutional the qualifier portion of Section 4 deals with excluding mass actions and similar exercises of civil and political rights from the definition of terrorism. It said the provision is being overboard and violative of freedom of expression. Likewise, stricken down was a portion of Section 25, which is about requests by foreign agencies or bodies to designate persons as terrorists and terrorist organizations. For its part, the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict welcomed the SC ruling on the constitutionality of the anti-terrorism law. It said the SC decision is a victory for the Filipino people over terrorism, which is regarded as a crime against the Filipino people, against humanity, and against the law of nations. It said the parts of the law declared as unconstitutional do not diminish or destroy the efficacy of the law. Despite the 37 petitions challenging validity of the anti-terror law, the NTF-ELCAC said the spirit of the law, which resonates with the voice of the people calling for justice and condemning insurgency, has been heard and upheld by the court. President Rodrigo Duterte will renew his appeal for a peaceful conduct of the 2022 elections in the upcoming Summit for Democracy. Undersecretary Robert Borge, Chief of Presidential Protocol and Presidential Assistant on Foreign Affairs, said Duterte's intervention in the U.S.-organized summit will tackle accomplishments concerning democracy and efforts to guarantee its continuation. Borge said in the context of democracy, a democracy cannot be strong if there's no peaceful and regular transfer of power. He said that for Duterte, the country cannot be truly democratic unless Filipinos have the opportunity to choose the country's next leaders through peaceful, honest, free, and credible elections. Despite challenges, he said Duterte will reiterate his continuing commitment to the promotion of democracy and its core values. This Summit for Democracy, which will run from December 9 to 10, will focus on challenges and opportunities facing democracies. Malacanang has denounced the killing of a Pampanga-based journalist who was shot and killed in Calbayog City, Samar on Wednesday. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said the Presidential Task Force on Media Security is now looking into the incident and exploring all angles, including the possibility that the killing was related to his work as a journalist. He said the task force is also encouraging everyone with information to come forward to authorities and cooperate with law enforcers to immediately bring Malabanang's killer to justice. Meanwhile, he also extended sympathy to Malabanang's bereaved family and friends. To date, the Philippine National Police has mobilized a task force that will focus on the investigation into Malabanang's killing. PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos said the police is doing its best to identify and arrest the perpetrator. Malabanang, a correspondent for the Manila Standard, was watching television in his store at Barangay San Joaquin, Tinambacan District, when a gunman shot him in the head. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was declared dead on arrival. He was 58 years old. Witnesses saw the gunman fleeing the crime scene using a motorcycle together with a companion. Checkpoint operations were immediately conducted to intercept the suspects. The task group is obtaining copies of CCTV footage that may help in the investigation. More than 100 farmers in a village in Dalaguete, Cebu's vegetable basket are now benefiting from a new 7.5 million peso farm-to-market road project. The road project under the Kalahi Seeds Kapangyarihan at Kaunlaran sa Barangay Program or KKB connects the vegetable farms of Barangay Kaleryuhan to neighboring Barangay Mantalongon. DSWD Region 7 Director Rebecca Guiamala said the almost 1 kilometer sectional concrete access road in Purok Talong and Purok Repolyo was funded through the agency's special program targeting to benefit local residents. With its 33 farming villages, Dalaguete has been known as Cebu's vegetable basket because of its geographical location and unique climate. It supplies 70 to 80 tons of vegetable products a day to many places in the province, including Metro Cebu. The DSWD's Kalahi Seeds program has completed a total of 69 sub-projects in Dalaguete, thus empowering almost 500 farmers. In our business news, 3 of the major local carriers lauded the government's efforts to prevent the entry of the COVID-19 Omicron variant in the country, saying the threat is not yet affecting airline operations. Philippine Airlines spokesperson Chelo Villaluna said they believe the existing protocols in quarantine, testing, and arrival procedures are enough to ward it off. Villaluna also said Omicron has no impact or threat yet on both inbound and outbound international flights of the PAL. Cebu Pacific spokesperson Carmina Romero, on the other hand, said Omicron might have an impact on travel confidence, but not as disturbing as when the industry feared the Delta variant. Romero also noted that there are more vaccinated people now. AirAsia Philippines spokesperson Steve De Lisan, meanwhile, stressed the need to adhere to the guidelines set by the Interagency Task Force. He expressed hope that the Omicron threat will not impact the demand for air travel during the holidays. More stories from the newsroom. Celebrating Islamic heritage, the Kababonson Festival returns after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. And the Philippines pays homage to its Catholic roots through sending the exact replica of the Santo Niño de Cebu to Spain. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Hi everyone, James Deacon here. The COVID-19 vaccines are finally here, and the government wants to make sure the vaccines reach us. So let's do our part by making sure that we get registered to be included in the vaccination list of our LGU. You can register right in the comfort and safety of your own homes through your LGU's online registration platform. And you can also register on site in the vaccination venues or through your barangay. Remember, getting vaccinated is the first step towards ending this pandemic. So let's do our part as disciplined citizens. Bida ang may disiplina. Magpakarehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
A total of 142 members of the 4th Joint Peace and Security Team have graduated from training and are now ready to be deployed across the Bangsamoro region. Officials of the Bangsamoro region in Muslim Mindanao and the Philippine National Police witnessed the closing ceremonies for the 4th batch of JPST trainees. The trainees were selected from the police, army, and former combatants of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Brigadier General Eden Ogale, Police Regional Office BARMM Police Director, said the training was specifically designed to equip them to become competent peacekeeping forces. The JPST is a mechanism that supports the peace initiatives of the government of the Philippines and the MILF. Government troopers last Wednesday overran a New People's Army hideout after an encounter in Sitio Taub, Barangay Rizal, Buena Vista, Agusan del Norte. 23rd Infantry Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Julio Cesar Paulo said their troops were looking into reports of civilians on the presence of the NPA insurgents when the clash broke out. The rebels, led by a certain Rogelio Gerondio alias Napnap of the NPA North Central Mindanao Regional Committee, eventually abandoned their positions. Paulo said the NPAs had been using the hideout for the past several days as they conducted their terrorist activities in Barangay Rizal. In a separate statement, the Army's 4th Infantry Division reported the surrender of 2 ranking NPA leaders to the 402nd Infantry Battalion in Butuan City on Tuesday. The 4ID identified the surrenderers as Armando Rabanes alias Antoy, an official of the Sub-Regional Command 3 NPA-NCMRC, and Marvin Hinampas Campos alias Manoy, the Squad 1 leader of Platoon Sagay from the same group. Rabanes is reportedly listed as a high-value individual who has close ties with the slain George Caoris Madlos. Major General Romeo Browner Jr., 4ID commander and new Philippine Army chief, said the surrender of Rabanes proves that the NPA has weakened, particularly in the Agusan provinces. The Kababonson Festival is back after 2 years in hiatus, with the theme Reliving the Past for the Empowered Bangsamoro. The festival commemorates the arrival of Islam in Mindanao through the Rio Grande de Mindanao River, the largest waterway in central Mindanao. The highlight of the festival is the Ginakit Fluvial Parade, or the reenactment of the arrival of the missionary from Johor, Sharif Muhammad Kababonson, via the Rio Grande de Mindanao. Other activities include a week-long trade fair, tourism exhibit, and photo gallery. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, through its Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism, announced that the festivities will run from December 15 to December 20. The MTIT will be collaborating with the Bangsamoro Commission for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage and the Association of Tourism Officers of Maguindanao for the festivity. The Santo Niño de Cebu replica is now staying over at the Basilica de la Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, Spain. The replica was presented by the Philippine Consulate General in Barcelona during an international mass in the iconic church last Sunday. Apostolic Nuncio to Spain, Bernardito Cleopas Auza, a native of Bohol, and the Archbishop of Barcelona, Cardinal Jose Omelia, celebrated the mass. The original image, also the oldest religious relic in the Philippines, was found in 1565. The Sagrada Familia received its exact replica in line with the 2021 quincentennial commemorations in the Philippines. Aside from the replica, Lapu-Lapu City Mayor Junard Chan also donated another image of Child Jesus to Barcelona. The National Quincentennial Committee on Thursday said the 2 images of the Santo Niño de Cebu will roam the churches in the Catalunya, along with the replicas of the historic Santo Niño images of Tondo, Ternate, and Pandacan. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. More life-saving doses. The country gets over 3.5 million doses of Astrazeneca and Moderna jabs today, less than a week before the second round of the massive COVID-19 vaccination drive. Efforts paying off. The Health Department traces 5 more travelers from South Africa who entered the country days before the travel ban on countries that reported cases of the Omicron variant. Still a victory. Government officials welcomed the Supreme Court's decision upholding the constitutionality of the Anti-Terrorism Act, even as it struck down 2 provisions of the law. And celebrating culture and faith, the Philippines sends the exact replica of the Santo Niño de Cebu to Spain. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. It's almost 2 weeks before Christmas, so remember, keep safe and enjoy the holidays. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muahe. Have a good day.